Nora, we have a question from Jason Flynn from De La Salle, and this is in Churchtown, might I add, and he has a question around startup companies. He made the very important point that we often hear an awful lot about tech startups, but not so much about science startups, so startup companies. But here we have a prime example of someone who's gone and had a startup company in science. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So I think that to come back to his question there, we don't hear a lot simply because a technology company usually doesn't need a lot of funding at the initial stages. You know, it's a piece of software you're developing, etc. Science company is more complicated. You know, sometimes it's clinical trials, etc. So it does take a lot more money to create a science startup. But also, science companies, as you grow in the first 2 years, it might take 2 to 3 years, you get easily bought by bigger companies such as Pfizer, and that's why maybe you don't hear about them neither. They're actually just kind of sucked into a bigger, larger company. But there are a lot of science companies out there. And I think the thing you need to know about, for me, my main target doing a company is to change things, is to change basically the world we live in a better direction. And for me, it was looking into food and making it healthier using a computer, basically. So we're using software, going into food and trying to make food naturally healthier. So that was my main driver. And then you need to be a little bit of an entrepreneur as well and take a risk.
Sure.
It's all, you know, opening a company in general is a risky thing to do. But yeah, so it's a scientific company. It's based on research, and it's there's a lot of experimental lab work and there's a lot of computer work as well.
So you touched slightly there that you need to be an entrepreneur and you need to have a risk-taking skill inside you. Could you touch on other skills that you might need? You need
to be good at communicating your science as well. So which is part of the whole science. And you need to in science, you know, you think you discovered something, then you get knocked down, and it kind of hurts sometimes.
Bit
and
of
I think
resilience
that's it builds resilience.
Yeah.
So that's really
key.
important as well. And in science you do, it's part of science, you know, you do try and communicate your science, whether it's publications, traveling. I traveled a lot and I lived abroad for a few years as part of my science career in the different universities, Trinity and UCD. And so I think that skill is very important, communication of your own science, and wanting to change something, really wanting to do something, a drive to change something. Yeah. Absolutely. And a little risk taking as well.
Interpersonal skills would also be massively important.
That's very important.
It's something that we see when we're looking to hire for a lot of companies. They're interested obviously in the grades that you've got and the subject that you studied, but they also want to see what you do outside of study, outside of work. What sports are you involved in? Are you into team sports? Because if you're into team sports, you have to be able to communicate under pressure and, you know, to
pass me the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they want to see what you're into. You know, they want to see what type of music you like, what type of sports you're into, what type of books you read. So the people skills and the softer skills are so important for your job as well.
They're
whether it's
normally looked over. Like if you're looking at a job advertisement or something, it's always down the end, it's like good communication, good computer skills. And it's nearly a given that they're asking for.
Yeah.
And when you get your degree or your CV gets to a place, that's kind of a tick of the box. Now they want to see how you work in the team and do you fit within that specific team.
That's it. The degree is taken for given at that stage.
Exactly.
It's, you know, like, it's not even questioned. But it's when you get to the interview then, that's when all of that comes out. And it may not have been on the job description, but suddenly you're interviewing for all of these jobs and like, why am I getting them? It's like, because it's just not the right fit. They're looking for somebody who's more into, you know, solo sports or team sports or whatever it might be. So the people skills and the softer skills, absolutely
listening
critical.
as well is a good skill to have, just to listen to what people really need.
Great, really good. Thank you.